Welcome back, Nomad family. We know it's been a while since we have convened in this fashion, and while we enjoy our time together in Denver, we know that not everyone could be there, and we have a duty to maintain the standards of engagement that Nomad is known for. So despite the challenges that came with navigating the fall and winter seasons, we wanted to get back to our monthly webinars and engage our members. And what better month to get started but Black History Month? I hope everyone is engaging their student athletes and school community in meaningful dialogue around the topics of race, equity, and justice. We see right now that our country continues to struggle mightily with these issues. From the killing of Amir Locke to bomb threats at our HBCUs, we have to stand together and not allow these things to go unchecked. I have said this to a number of colleagues before. As athletic directors, we are in the care business, but oftentimes we learn that no one cares about us. We cannot make a meaningful difference in our communities if we don't take care of ourselves. So we felt it best to begin with focusing on us. So I'm pleased to have Tommy Jones with us today. I first learned of Tommy from Earl Edwards, the director of athletics and my mentor here at the University of California, San Diego. He shared a video with me of Tommy discussing strategies with college administrators on their health, on their wellness and their health. And it became clear to me that we had to learn these strategies as well. Tommy Jones is a distinguished growth coach, educator, leadership consultant, and strategic advisor. Electing for a more applied approach to his graduate school experience, he began working as an academic mentor and soon fell in love with the field of student athlete academic support. This led to a 15-year career working as an academic advisor, academic counselor, MBA advisory board member, and associate director. His responsibilities included providing individualized academic support plans, skill set development, career counseling, team building, mental wellness counseling, and personal financial education to various high-profile and underprepared student athletes with men's basketball, football, women's basketball, and women's volleyball programs. He has since launched Growth for Life, which specializes in academic, career, leadership, life, mental wellness, and performance and mental training coaching, providing services to corporate, academic, and athletic organizations and clients. Tommy earned his bachelor's degree in sports management from the University of Michigan. While in Ann Arbor, Tommy was a member of the football team who won 2 Big Ten championships and 1 BCS championship in 1998 through 2000. During this time, playing wide receiver, Tommy earned his master's degree in counseling from Michigan State University. I don't know how the Big Blue feel about that, Tommy, but all right, you go, boy. Brighter days are coming, and I know Tommy will give you the roadmap to maintain your balance as athletic administrators in these unprecedented times. So folks, I am so pleased to welcome Tommy here with us today. Tommy?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be with you guys, very honored to have this opportunity, and really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to join us for this webinar, and really excited about some of the techniques and discussions that we will have with our time today. And really, this is just kind of laying out the roadmap for you guys. We're going to start with self-awareness. So we're going to really look at ourself and kind of what are some tools that we can really use moving forward to make sure that we keep a strong self-awareness. We're going to do some learning, some rediscovering, and some understanding of self-care and strategy techniques for self-care and mental wellness. And then from there, we'll take a course of action for self-care strategies and techniques and how to apply them. Our goal for today is to make sure that we identify areas of personal growth by being intentional about your mental wellness and by using strategies and techniques for your self-care. As we begin, I also like to always kind of set the tone for interactions like this. First, want to let you guys know that this is a safe place. So feel free to share and ask questions. This is a non-judgment zone. So there is no stupid question. There is no experience that is not, that won't add to our discussion. And also make sure that you are vulnerable with yourself. And what I mean by that is a lot of times we have areas that we know we need to improve upon, but we want to kind of push that to the back and not really have to deal with it. So allow yourself that opportunity to be vulnerable with yourself so that you can be honest with yourself and that you can move forward in making sure that you take care of your mental wellness while taking care of yourself. Next slide, please. So with this one, just self-awareness. It's once again, it's allowing yourself to be honest with yourself. And once you're honest with yourself, it allows you to be honest with other individuals. And this is really important. And it's also one of those things that for me, I always start with myself, but also when I'm working with my clients, one of the things I share with them is, you know, at the end of the day, the better that you are at having awareness of yourself, the better you are able to not only effectively communicate with other individuals and stakeholders that you interact with, but also you're in a better position to connect with them. And so next we have these five, I kind of call them the five pillars of the foundation for self-awareness. The first one is identify your emotions. And this is really important in identifying your emotions and having an awareness of your emotions. Those emotions that are positive or negative, depending on how you look at it at them, you know, such as anger or frustration, irritation, those things are just as important as some of the emotions we think of as positive in terms of, you know, I'm happy, I have pride, I feel good today, those type of things. Because when you're able to identify your emotions, it helps you to really be aware of other people's emotions and how your mood and your behaviors may be impacting them and vice versa. Next is to understand self-awareness helps you to understand your motivation. And Tommy, why is this important? Why do I need to understand my motivation? Well, as you understand your motivation, it helps you to, if needed, make corrections or adjustments to behaviors, to your thought process, or continue on that path because you're actually heading in the right direction. So that's a big part of why it's important to understand your motivation. Next is to evaluate your time and priorities. And this is one that is really big. This is one that I feel like everyone has room to continue to improve upon. And especially with, you know, really, it's almost been 2 years now since the pandemic really has changed all of our lives. And how you look at time and your priorities has definitely shifted across not just our nation, but across the world. And so it's even more important that we are intentional about how we evaluate our time and our priorities. And so one of the things that I often talk to my clients about, as well as remind myself of in terms of this process, is focus on what is really important and what do I need to get done today. How well am I using my time? You also have to be honest with yourself on how much time is this task really going to take for me to get things done. So that way you're really planning out your day and being able to prioritize the tasks that you need to get done in a very effective way. Next, utilize your strengths. You know, this is something that's really important, is to be aware of your strengths. I think in recent years, there's been a lot of talk and focus on improving areas that are not maybe as strong or that you're not as comfortable with. And those are important to continue to work to improve, but it's also one of those things that don't focus so much on those. Times working with clients, and even for myself as I started on this journey with really understanding what my philosophy was and is, it started where it was incomplete. So I had some beliefs, I had some ideals, I had some values, but they were kind of all scattered about. And being intentional about your philosophy, it brings all those things together. And so for an example, when I first started working with student athletes when I was in grad school at Michigan State, everybody was like, you know, the student athlete population that you're working with, they're very challenging, and you smile too much. So you're not going to be able to get the most out of them because you're always smiling, and they're not going to take you serious. They're going to see it as a sign of weakness. And so I took that to heart. You know, I'm young, hungry, ready to, you know, help these young student athletes, because a lot of them I saw myself in them. And so for me, I was ready to go, ready to help out. And so for the next 2 weeks, as soon as I would get into that building, I would not smile and kind of put my game face on. And those were 2 weeks that were so ineffective in terms of how I worked with my students, because I was not being my authentic self. And your philosophy is going to help you to do that. And so what I learned from that situation, and that's what really was a catalyst for me to really understand the importance of having my philosophy and defining it, is that I had to be myself. And part of who I am is I'm going to smile. I am the glass is half full type of guy. So for me, that's what worked. And once I went back to that, there was such a impact with being able to connect with the students that I was working with, that I was like, okay, it's good to take advice from people, but I have to really be true to myself, to my beliefs, to my ideals, and to my value. And that's when, you know, I really started to understand the importance of philosophy. So we're going to have you guys break off into breakout rooms. And I want you guys to discuss, what is your philosophy and why is it your philosophy? And if you don't have a philosophy, start to kind of write down some of the beliefs, ideals, or values that are core to who you are. And then that will kind of help you to start to think about this process of how to complete your philosophy. And then we'll meet back and we'll have some of you guys share what your philosophy is and why it's your philosophy. And I will also do the same. All right, is everyone back? Okay.
Almost.
Do we have anyone that wants to share with us what their philosophy is and why that's their philosophy?
Hey, Tommy, I'll jump in if everyone can
Okay.
hear me. Group one, we had an all male group. There were 5 of us, and one of our speakers said that their philosophy is to have the greatest impact on the largest number of individuals possible. So throughout their career, they've gone from a smaller school um, to larger schools, and now to being in charge of a school system with 37,000. So that impact is going, and he's reaching that philosophy. And then, you know, who knows what holds for him in the future. And another gentleman also talked about his philosophy, and I really liked what he had said. He said he looks to be the leader that he looked for needed when he was younger. So that's his philosophy, to be that leader that he needed when he was younger. And that's helping them to reach their goals. And then another one of our breakout members spoke that his school system was much like the other one. He's working with a larger group of individuals as well. And I think all of us in our profession want to have an impact on as many kids as we can. No, we can't reach them all, but the more we have within our reach, will have an impact on a lot more. So thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else want to share? All right, I'll go ahead and share mine. And then after I do mine, if someone else wants to jump in and share one more, that would be fine. So for me, my philosophy has been, I aggressively pursue excellence in every area of my life. And that's really been my thought process, probably going back to high school. And at high school, it was definitely more centered around really doing well with sports, especially football. That was my love. So it really started with my love of football, and I would do whatever I needed to do to have excellence in that area. It wasn't until I got to college, midway through my sophomore year, I was meeting with my professor, Professor Malloy, my sports law class, and he he's he called me out in class one day, wasn't really prepared, and you know, it was one of those days. A lot of people also weren't prepared, and when he called on me and I wasn't prepared, he ended class. And I'm like, dang, okay, whatever. And then he was like, you know, as everyone's getting ready to leave, he's like, Tommy, can I talk to you for a minute? I was like, oh, shoot, what's going on? And I got a couple teammates and friends in there. So everybody's just kind of looking like, ooh, what you done did. So I stayed back and talked with Professor Malloy, and he's like, you know, I'm really disappointed that you weren't prepared for class today like you normally are. And he's like, part of the reason why I'm disappointed is because when I've talked with your coaches, I hear about the great effort you give. I hear about how prepared you are, how you study, your attention to detail, and I'm not seeing that today. And also, whether you realize it or not, you impact others around you, that you're a leader that a lot of times you just don't, you feel like you're being yourself. And so for me, that really started to open my eyes to see, okay, well, what do I do for football? And is it possible for me to apply these skill sets and this mindset into other areas of my life? And so that's where my philosophy comes from. And from the years of since then of developing it, you know, my philosophy, it empowers me. It allows me to be my authentic self. Like I said, that's what kind of helped me get back on track when I was working at Michigan State. And then it reinforces who I am at my core. It allows me to keep a positive attitude, even when things may not be the best of times. When there's situations and, you know, whether it's job related or personal, excuse me, it always helps me to give my best effort, to think and behave with integrity, to have a hungerness to learn and a willingness to learn from any and everybody. It helps me to continue to have a strong work ethic, to work until the job gets done well. It helps me to remind me that I am a loyal person, that I'm a protective person, that I'm someone that I'm working to build the strongest team that I can, and that I believe that a rising tide lifts all boats, and I want to do my part in helping that tide to rise. And so that is what my philosophy is, and that's why it's my philosophy. Is there anyone else that wants to share their philosophy and why it's their philosophy before we move on?
Hey, Tommy, I'll go ahead and speak.
Okay.
I'll go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Kevin Turner, Unity Reed High School, Manassas, Virginia. Yeah, I was in a breakout session with Becky and Tammy, and I got called away with a kind of a family interruption. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about, you know, part of my philosophy is very similar to, you know, the reason that most athletic directors get into this field, you know, helping students create memories that they will have forever, lasting memories. And so I feel like everything that I do, every aspect of the job is to make sure that when the students are adults and they look back on their high school careers, that they look back on something positive. And, you know, I don't want them to look back and say, what a horrible coach that was, or what a terrible thing that adult said to me back then. And, you know, and I have adult friends that have really bad memories of their high school athletic experiences. And so, I think, yeah, my philosophy, if I had to put it in a sentence, would be creating opportunities for students, future memories. And so I feel like that's, you know, that kind of sums up what I do. And it's probably not much different than, you know, what's in the hearts of most athletic administrators.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for sharing. We can go to the next slide. And so really the reason why I wanted to take a moment to talk about your philosophy is because it is your North Star. It's your guide. It's going to help protect your peace. And so this is why I wanted to start with the philosophy. It's also, your philosophy should be a reminder for you to do the right thing instead of a good thing. And a lot of times, there's a lot of opportunity to do a good thing, and it can at times overshadow doing the right thing. And that's really a big part of what your philosophy is going to help you do, is going to help you to stay on the right track of making the right decisions instead of just a good one. And there are going to be times where you are able to make the right decision that is also a good decision or a good thing. And so your philosophy also will really reinforce your authentic self. And that's one of the keys to having a good mental wellness and health, as well as being able to take care of yourself and have good self-care, is you have to be authentically you. If you're not authentically you, you are going to be exhausted mentally, emotionally, and physically. And so that's what the philosophy is. That's the importance of the philosophy. And there I have it on the side there. It helps keep you vigilant to known pressure points. And to me, pressure points are those things that it kind of rubs you the wrong way, or it gets your antennas up that I might need to check into this one way or another. So one of the things that I kind of think about in terms of an example of a pressure point is if you haven't been feeling good for a couple of days and it's not feeling like a normal cold or something like that, you might be like, you know what, I need to go see the doctor. It may be just a normal cold that's just a little bit worse than, what you've had in the past, but it's enough to create an awareness for you that you need to use your resources to get further information into understanding how to best deal with that pressure point. And a lot of times, if you don't properly deal with the pressure points, they may end up turning into new triggers. And triggers are definitely things that I call them your enemies of your self-care, of your peace, of your mental wellness. And so you really
Ultra running shoes make getting out there easy.
Protect yourself as much as possible from these new triggers and have different strategies to cope with them.
Make room for a better run.
With, all of these events that are going on in our country right now, there's enough trauma that, these pressure points can pop up really quickly. So you really want to make sure that you are doing all that you can to really stay with your philosophy, because it's going to keep you on the right track. It's going to protect your peace. And so that's what the importance of the philosophy is. Next slide, please. So as we were talking about our philosophy, these are some of the questions that help me to, one, as I work with my clients that have incomplete philosophies, help them to complete their philosophies. And those of us that have complete philosophies, to remind ourselves and to ask these questions to help you to continue to adjust your philosophy as needed, because different experiences, different knowledge that you will gain over time, your philosophy is going to tweak some. Your core of your philosophy is, for the most part, will stay the same, but there's going to be some tweaks to it because of your experience and your gained knowledge. So why am I so happy with myself? These are I like this question a lot because it helps me, once again, kind of tying into what we talked about earlier with the self-awareness and understanding your emotions. A lot of times I want to try to capture, why am I so happy right now with myself? What is it in this moment? Is it, a certain event that helped to trigger this happiness? Is it that I accomplished something that I wanted to do for myself? Is it some days for us in the athletic profession? Hey, I actually had 2 days off in a row. That's why I'm so happy with myself, And so these questions really help you to understand the different events and occurrences that help you to feel the different emotions. It ties into the self-awareness, but it also helps you to develop your philosophy that's going to help protect your peace, that's going to help guide you in the direction that you desire to go. Next slide, please. All right. So with this is, we want to talk about skillfully protecting your energy. And the quote there on the side is, your energy is your responsibility. do what you need to do to protect it. And this is really important, that you protect your energy. There's a lot of variables out there that will try to use up your energy if you are not protecting it. And I think about your energy like you do with your money. You're not going to leave your money just laying out. You're going to have it protected, whether it's in a safe in your home or at the bank. That's the same mindset you need to have with protecting your energy. And so, sorry about the slide coming up a little bit like this, where you're not able to see some of the steps that we have. I'll make sure I get that corrected and get it to Anthony so you guys can check that out. But the first one is to set an intention. And what I mean by set an intention is to anticipate and mentally prepare for the day's events before your day really gets going. And so for me, the way that I use this strategy to protect my peace is usually the last couple minutes of my work day. I look at my schedule real quick for the next day and kind of see what will be on my schedule for the next day. Understand what task I may need to get done that next day. And then from there, I'm off hanging out with my family, doing what I need to do. And then that next morning I get up, pray, meditate, and then I hit the gym. And while I'm at the gym, especially doing my cardio, not my favorite thing to do, but one of the things that I do while I'm doing cardio is I'm going through mentally preparing myself of what the day is going to bring, anticipating, I have maybe 3 meetings, maybe 2 of those meetings, there can be some lively debate. And from those lively debates that may come from those meetings, how may that affect me? Or am I working with a certain student that may not always have the best attitude, or maybe they have some family issues going on? So for me, it's those things that help me to mentally prepare for what my day may bring. Am I going to have to deal with negative Nancy's? I refer to negative Nancy's as people that want to steal your energy because of their outlook on life and their mindset, some of the toxic things that they may say. So those are some of the things that I do in terms of really setting an intention for the day. And it really helps me to, like I said, monitor my behavior throughout the day, monitor how I interact with those negative Nancy's. Being in the position you guys are being in, you have a lot of stakeholders, so you're going to interact with a lot of different people. And so you really have to be mindful of those people that you interact with. The next one is focus on what you can control. And for me, I call this control the controllables. Like I said, your energy is like your money. You want to protect it. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to spend your energy, your attention, your focus, your time on issues that you have no impact on the outcome. That's a waste of your time, waste of your energy, waste of your focus. So focus on what you can control, and then from there, move on from it, and in that situation, I always like to ask myself this question: did I do the best that I could with the information that I had available in that current situation? And if the answer was yes, then great, move on. If the answer was no, that's a learning opportunity. Why did I say no? What are the things that I could do better the next time if a situation like this arises? Next, tune into your feelings. Once again, this is that part of that self-awareness. Understand how you're feeling, because that's going to impact not only you, but it's going to also impact the other people that you interact with. And like I said, you guys in your position, you have a lot of different stakeholders that you are interacting with, communicating with on a daily basis. So understanding how you're feeling is extremely important, as important as your concern and your feelings for the stakeholders that you are interacting with. And so that's really important, is that you understand how you are feeling. So for example, if you are driving into work and normally it takes you 20 minutes, but this day it took you 45 minutes and now you're frustrated because because it took almost twice as long to get to work. Now the focus needs to be on, and should be on, that, okay, what are some of the things that I can do to help relieve this feeling of frustration that I have from my commute taking twice as long this morning? Is it, for me, I usually, if I can't find a good song on the radio, I got XM in my truck, so I'll put it on one of the comedy channels usually. And there's a joke or two there that I'll listen to for maybe 5 minutes. It helps to help me to refocus and start my day off right, because I don't want to go in interacting with people and take my frustrations out on them. And they're looking at me like, well, I just asked you a simple question. Why are you kind of jumping down my throat? So once again, be aware of how you're feeling, because it impacts others as well. The next one is protect your peace. This is vital. This is one that needs to be at the top of your list. And this is one that a lot of times, especially for us, like I said, those that like to help others, this is one that usually, I call it the sliding scale. It starts sliding down your list on a priority, but you have to protect your peace. And protecting your peace, I always think about it in this manner. When you are on a plane, right before you take off, the flight attendants say, if for whatever reason there's loss in cabin pressure, put your mask on first before you try to help someone else. And this is the mindset that you need to have with protecting your peace. You have to protect your peace first in order to help other people as effectively as you are able to. Next is set boundaries and also reinforce those boundaries. Once again, myself included, because I like to help people, especially at the beginning of my career. This was a huge challenge for me of setting boundaries. I was fine setting them. I was horrible at enforcing them. And so a lot of times, especially early in my career, I was single, had no kids. So and I had a strong work ethic. They knew I had a desire to help the students I was working with. So a lot of times my time was not respected, because they're like, well, he's single. He don't got nothing else to do. He has that flexibility in his time. And so those are things that you want to make sure that you set your boundaries, but not just set them, but that you also enforce them. Next, you want to make sure that you build a solid social circle. And for me, I refer to it as your tribe. Who is your tribe? And in your tribe, you should have people that are going to tell you the truth, tell you things that you need to hear, and not just the things that you want to hear. And so that's really important. Your tribe is also going to be there to encourage you, to support you, to empower you. So those are some of the strategies and practices you can use to help you protect your peace. And once again, it is your responsibility to protect your peace. That's what you have to do. You have to protect your peace. And that's an important piece of the self-care. And so these are some of the strategies that you can use. I hope my examples of kind of how I use them is helpful. Is there any questions or anything at this time about those strategies?
I mean, I'd just like to chime in as well. One of the things that you mentioned, I like that set boundaries. We definitely have to do that for ourselves. And I know one of the things that I try to remember at all times is to also help those that work with me and under my charge or on my staff to set and enforce their boundaries as well. And I try to do that with, some of my game workers, some of my workers. And if I don't necessarily have to host events during downtimes, during holidays, or break time, I won't. So they know when I need them, I really truly need them, and I will respect their own time as well. And I expect that to come back from them for me as well.
Right. No, definitely great point. Thank you for sharing.
Tommy, I think also, on that setting the boundaries, I think a lot of times, especially young ADs, and we're in these positions, especially, our underrepresented ADs, women and BIPOC people, we need to learn how to say no.
Yes.
And say, and it's okay to just say no. Like we can't do it, but we're fueled by always trying to please and or prove that, you know, we are the right people for this job. And
Right.
so saying yes, or I can do it, or I'll handle it, that becomes a problem. And, you know, I'm fortunate, I have a staff and I have someone who can remind me of that all the time. She's on here right now, she's smiling, but she doesn't want any attention. I'm gonna leave her alone. But like Missy is my, you know, she gets me centered sometimes because she's not afraid to tell me you're being stupid right now.
Mhm.
So I think that's important that we have that tribe. We have that nomad tribe too. I see JT on here today. JT is someone who speaks nothing but the truth, straight out of Cleveland. So she lets us know always. So to have that tribe, that social, you know, that social group. My man Theron's on here from San Diego. Him and I have had conversations all the time. And I also want to give a shout out to Damone, who I just love. This is my brother. And, you know, we try to mentor one another. And I think that's really important part of it. And when you think about, you know, building that social circle, learning how to set your boundaries, and just, you know, having those real conversations. I think one of the most important parts of sort of the self-care is that we as leaders show that we care about the folks that work with us.
Yes.
And sometimes it's as simple. I ask this question a lot when I get into my meetings with my staff, you know, what weighs heaviest on your mind right now? And just throwing that question out, you learn so much about your group and your people and where you have to support them, but it also empowers them, you know, because, you know, the folks that work with me know that I can get very narrowly focused on what we need to do and how we need to do it. And I'm a control freak that way. And so sometimes it's always nice to be able to hear what, you know, what's important to them and how they need to get it done. And that I need to take a step back and let them just do it instead of me trying to do it. So.
Mhm. No, definitely great points. And like you said, at different parts of our career, and I know for me, especially early on, saying no, I was horrible at that. It was a challenge because part of it was I want to help these students, but I also wanted to be recognized as someone that was dependable and reliable that would help me prove that I was worthy not only of this position, but of the next positions in terms of moving through my career progression. Yeah. Anyone else have anything else to share? And we can go to the next slide.
Was I able to fix that slide for you, Tommy?
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm out here on the back end trying to do everything. Here's the old one. Okay, there we go.
All right. And so with this one, this goes right along with protecting your energy, is to stay in a proactive state and not be in a reactive state. And I love the quote that's at the top of this slide. I believe that everyone chooses how to approach life. If you are proactive, you're focusing on preparing. If you're reactive, you end up focusing on repairing. And that's by John C. Maxwell. And so for me, like I said, there were certain areas of my life, especially with my career early on, that I was really great at being proactive. And then other areas that I don't even know if you could call it reactive. It was just really horrible. And one of those areas that I was really horrible at, that I want to encourage you guys to do a much better job than what I did early in my career with, is to plan and schedule rest and recovery time, days off ahead of time. 2 to 3 days a quarter, if possible. And at times you're going to have to be creative with doing that. But once again, this is where you have to kind of have a paradigm shift in how you think about the importance of your self-care and your mental wellness. Because a lot of times, and even for me, I know part of why I struggled with doing this early in my career was because I look at 2 or 3 days and I looked at the teams that I was working with. And when they're in season and out of season, one team would be out of season, other teams in season. And then there was a middle ground where they were both in season. So I was like, okay, you can't take time off because everything's going to fall apart. And part of that is we have to adjust our thought process and control our egos that, you know what, if we step away for a day or two, they'll be all right. The house will not burn down. And for me, like I said, I really struggled with this and a lot of times used holidays to rest and recover instead of using the holidays to celebrate. And so once I learned to, so what I would do is, like I said, I would use the holidays, but a lot of times, even with the holidays, the sports that I worked with, a lot of times you're still working in over Christmas break. You're working over the new year a lot of times. So that break on paper looked really good, but in reality, it was always shorter than what it looked like on paper. And so really being mindful ahead of time and scheduling, these are the days when I'm going to be out. And so that way you can communicate with other people, whether it's people that you are working with that, hey, I'm going to be out at this time, so I need to delegate these tasks and responsibilities to you. And this is the plan moving forward on those days when I will be out. For me, once I learned how to do this, it was such an amazing feeling because things that at times I was struggling to get done at work, when I came back, because I actually rested, recovered, and recharged, I was able to get them done so much more effectively. I was so much more innovative because I had time to really rest, recover, and take care of myself. And that was something that, like I said, early on, I was horrible at. And so once I learned to be proactive with this, it really improved my effectiveness with the students I was working with, along with the other responsibilities that I needed to take care of with my roles. The next one is trust your gut, listen to your instincts, know your limits. I've only been disappointed in myself when I didn't trust my gut, when I didn't listen to my instincts, and when I ignored my limits. And so part of some things that kind of think about to help you trust your gut, listen to your instincts, and know your limits is to be honest about who and what isn't good for you. And so for me, part of the way that I coped with not really taking breaks and taking care of my mental wellness, and as well as I should have early in my career, was I would mask that and cope that fatigue and needing a break with, I'm gonna go to this fast food restaurant that has some really good fries and some apple pies that I like. That's how I was coping, and it wasn't good at all. But at the time, I was doing that because I wasn't honest with myself on, this work schedule is not good for you right now. I would tune out my tribe that was telling me, hey, this is not good for you. But it wasn't until I was honest with myself that I could start to make the change. Next, like I talked about, know when you need a break and take it. There's a difference between wanting a break and needing a break. And the goal with doing this is to, as you're scheduling and as you're planning, you really should start to have an idea of, as you're scheduling and planning, okay, what are the times of years where I really know I'm going to need a break? And is it possible for me to schedule at least 1 or 2 days off, even if it's really busy at that time, so that I can recharge and really have a full tank of gas and not be just hoping and praying that I make it to the gas station like we do sometimes with our vehicles. You know, that light comes on and we got 50 miles to a gas station, and you hoping and praying like, Lord, please let me get there. I hope I get there. So understand when you need to take a break. And Anthony talked about this a few minutes ago. Be okay with saying no and asking for help. Saying no and asking for help is a sign of strength. And a lot of times mentally, we have it as these are signs of weakness. These are that we're not able to carry the load, that we're not worthy of being in this position, when the reality is it takes real strength and courage to say no and to ask for help. And so those are the things that I suggest you do in terms of helping you to stay proactive. Next slide, please. And so the last strategy with being proactive is, I call it follow the CDC: choices, decisions, and consequences. So it's really important that you understand, what are my choices? And it's important to understand what your choices are so that way you can gather all the information that's going to lead you to making the best decision possible. And when you're able to make the best decision possible, usually the consequences of that decision are going to be the best consequences that could be the outcome based off of your choices and your decisions that you made. And so it's really important that you invest time in understanding what your choices are before you make that decision that's going to lead to the consequence, because that process never changes. You always have choices, no, even if they're not necessarily the best choices or the choices that we would necessarily desire to have, we still have choices. And so we have to focus on making the best decisions from those choices that we have, and it leads to the best consequence for us. Is there any questions about anything I've gone through so far? Okay. All right. So this one here, I love the quote there on the side. You got to nourish to flourish. And being in the health field like you guys are, this is, like I said, once again, an area that tends to be on a sliding scale for most of us, is that we are so focused on helping other people to grow and to flourish that we forget to replenish ourselves, refuel ourselves. And, you know, like I said earlier, based on your guys' roles, you guys have a lot of different stockholders that you are communicating with, interacting with on a daily basis. And there's a range of attitudes, behaviors, thought processes from all those different people that you are interacting with. And so it's really important that you make sure that you have different strategies in place to make sure that you nourish yourself. And so for me, some of the things I like to do in this, in terms of nourishing myself, is I like to read. I like to relax. I like to watch movies. I like to go and work out. I'm very active. I like to cook. I like to bake, which means I also like to eat. So for me, spending time with my family, those are some of the things that I do to help nourish myself from me pouring out into other people. Next slide, please. So now we can get into the questions. So the first question that we have is, how can families with athletic professionals integrate rigid gender roles and work of caregiving in order to cultivate healthier interactions and demands of their jobs? And so for me, when I hear this question, some of the ideals that kind of come to mind for me are, first, you have to be honest with yourself in terms of what are my responsibilities in terms of my athletic profession, but also what are my responsibilities to my family and to my team at home. And from there, really figure out, okay, what are the expectations that I have for myself in both of these roles, but also what are the expectations the stakeholders in both of those positions have for you as an athletic professional and also as part of the team at home. And so those are really important in understanding the expectations, because from understanding the expectations, you will really be able to have honest dialogue and conversation about, you know, are these expectations realistic? Do they need to be adjusted? Do I need to do better at meeting those expectations? And then at times, if the expectations are off, why are they off? Is it something that you need to educate, your family members on in terms of what your role and responsibilities are as an athletic professional? Because my experience has been a lot of athletic professionals, their family members have an ideal or a sense of what they do and what their job responsibilities are, but don't really understand it quite fully. So at times, this is an opportunity to educate them on really what your role is, and that at times that it's non-traditional. So I think that's part of the rub a lot of times with this, is because it's not the 9 to 5. And so it makes a lot of great areas in terms of how you go about interacting with your team at home and their interaction with you and their expectations of you. Is just kind of how I interpret that. And so for me, like I said, the takeaways for me on this is to look at this as an opportunity to be honest with yourself and see, am I doing all that I can do? Is it the most effective way that I'm going about fulfilling the expectations of these two roles? Are these expectations of these two roles realistic, or do they need to be adjusted? And have that conversation. And also, do I need to educate people on it? But it's also one of those things where, to me, it really comes down to the dialogue of what is expected and what you're actually able to do. And at times you're going to have to be creative because, like I said, your jobs is not a 9 to 5 job. Anyone see that question differently or have examples of how they handle a situation similar to this? Okay. All right. We'll move on to the next question. Our American sport culture reinforces social interaction in the performative masculines, sports bars, college culture life, man caves. How can we expand wellness practices in our profession to include alternative modes of wellness practice? And so for me, really, this really starts with you guys as the heads of your departments. For lasting and sustained effect and progress really starts from the top down. And so that's really where the progress has to come. That's where the alternative modes of wellness have to be first welcomed. And I also understand that the progress in this area is a journey. So it's not going to happen overnight or just with one event. But some of the things that you can do instead are, talk with your group about what are some of the things that they like to do on their own in terms of mental wellness and self-care, and see if those things are something that can be incorporated into the group. So for example, for me, some of the things that come to mind is and you guys already do this from my conversation with Anthony, is the book club. The book club is a great way to really get to help people understand their mental wellness and self-care, but also it creates a culture where we are able to better understand each other because of the dialogue that a lot of times will occur from us reading the same book, but maybe having different points of view. And it allows us the opportunity to really say, okay, this is how I saw this. Anthony, why did you see that same situation differently? And from that, it's going to help me to be able to have that emotional intelligence, that self-awareness, but also to better understand why Anthony has the perspective that he has. What experiences has he had that helps him to see the same situation that I see differently? And so those are some of the things that I initially think of. Are the book clubs are great. Depending on your group, are there things where you can, go out and do a group activity that's fun, whether it's, going for a run or biking, or at times just being a tourist in your own town. A lot of times that's something that will really open up the doors in terms of different modes of mental wellness and self-care. Also understanding what is important to each other. Those are some of the things that you can really use to help you with mental wellness and self-care. One of the biggest things though with this, and this is also, I'll touch back on it in the next question as well, is understand your power and your privilege and understand how you can use that to become an active ally for mental wellness and self-care practices that may not been the traditional terms of self-care and mental wellness, or even just kind of group activities that are normally done in workplace settings. So those are some of the things that I kind of think about in terms of answering this question here.
Tommy, we have about 5 more minutes before we want to wrap up and ask and have it open it up for discussion. But I just want to address that issue too, in terms of so often our female administrators are the only women or woman in the room. So sometimes as men, it is as simple as just asking their opinion and inviting them into the conversation rather than assuming that they're just going to do what we want to do.
Right, right. And to your point, that's the power and privilege that I talk about in terms of being an active ally, is bringing that to the forefront, is, you know, because I've also been in those situations, like you said, where you're in the room and maybe you're the only person of color, or you are, like the example you use, you're a room full of men and you're the only woman, where you can say, hey, Tina had a really great suggestion and we just overlooked that. So those are some of the examples of how you can use your power and privilege to help make a more inclusive environment.
And so I already know that Tina can fight for herself. I have to step in and try to save it, but we do need to, as men, make sure that we recognize our male privilege in the room. Although you don't have to worry about that with Tina, because she'll let you know.
Next, we have the self-care strategy tips. And so on this one, I just kind of broke down some things that you can do at work, and then also some things that you might find helpful at home. And so there's at work, maybe just getting out, going for a walk on your campus after a meeting, get the blood flowing. Another thing I like to do too, and encourage some of my clients to do, if it's a nice day and the weather allows, at times, see if some of the meetings can be walk-in meetings. It really can change up and help you to calm the body and the mind while you're at work. Also, there's many studies that have been done that show as your body's moving, that walking and jogging help to cultivate thought. So that's another benefit, as well as, you know, helping you to get the blood flowing again and kind of change the scenery in terms of the meeting place. Always take a break. You can have a snack. That's always a good way to just say, hey, you know what? I need 5 minutes. I'm going to eat my snack, whether it's something like an apple or fruit or something like that. Or if it's something, for me, a lot of times it would be chips. That's something I'm working to get better at. But just to have a couple of minutes by yourself to kind of regroup and refocus within a day. Also, you know, at times, maybe just reading something, and it doesn't necessarily have to be something that's work related. Sometimes it may need to be something that's fun. I know for me, in the last couple of years, I have not read the news as much, because that used to be part of my break, was I'll just read the news a little bit. But with all that goes on now, especially how it affects minorities, at times I really have to be guarded, because that can be a pressure point for me. So a lot of times I will go and check out, I love football, so I'll check out sports, or go on YouTube real quick and find something that's funny, or something that's going to be inspirational and motivating and uplifting. And like Anthony, the song he had on earlier today, like that kind of got me moving about. So I'll do something like that as well. Listening to music, just stretching at times. And then at home, some of the things that you can do is to journal. You will be surprised at how much information comes out when you journal. And the encouragement I always have with my clients, if you decide to journal, is the only rule is to write. Don't think about anything else. Don't think about grammar. Don't think about spelling. Don't think about, is this making sense? Just write. Allow yourself just to open up and write, and you'll be surprised what ends up on the page. Um, for those of us that, like the baths, take a bath or a shower, to kind of give you some time to regroup. For me, one of my biggest stress relievers is being an active lifestyle. So today here in North Carolina, it's actually going to be like 70 degrees. So I'm looking forward to going for a run before the sun goes down. Once again, have that conversation with your tribe. Who do you trust that's going to help you to see things for what they are and provide a different point of view that's going to be honest with you, but also will encourage you, and find your different methods of stress relief, whether it's watching TV, watching a movie, reading a book. Really custom fit it for what works well for you. And that's the big thing with these tips. Next slide, please. And so continuing on with the tips, remember, embody your philosophy. It's your North Star. It will help you to be authentic, your authentic self. And that is the foundation of self-care, and your mental wellness is to be your authentic self. Set an intention. Begin your day by anticipating and mentally preparing for each day's event. Control the controllables. Continue to work on self-awareness and your emotional intelligence. That's a journey. It never stops. You're always working to get better. And be intentional about protecting your peace. I put it last on this tip sheet because I want you to put this first on your priority list of being intentional about protecting your peace. You have to do this to maintain your mental wellness and continue to build upon the self-care that's going to allow you to continue to be effective. And then last, I love this. If you get tired, we're all going to get tired. Learn to rest and not quit. But also, as you learn to rest, it will keep you in a mind frame from where you don't want to quit. If you get to the point where you are so fatigued that you want to quit, you have missed the step of rest. And so that's why I love this quote here.
Hey, Tommy, man, thank you so much. I want to open it up for any last questions. If anybody wants to take a look at that slide deck, make sure you email me, and I'm happy to share that slide deck with Tommy's permission, so that you can present this on your way, or just bring Tommy to your school, because that's he's really good at that. But if there's any questions as we wrap up, we got about 5-10 minutes for any questions or conversations. But also, I will throw it out to everybody who's still here. If you want to share, what weighs heaviest on your mind today? Maybe there's someone here who can help you with that. So anybody have questions, unmute yourself. Let's talk.
Anthony, can you put that last slide back up just so we can get Tommy's contact information?
I will copy it and throw it in the chat.
Thank you.
But definitely, please, Anthony's asked anyone, please share. I'm sure everybody, it's a lot to digest, but we joined this webinar and we felt the need to offer mental health webinar, just hearing from our peers and our own experiences over the last year and a half in particular. So I'm sure, I mean, we share amongst ourselves, and when we share in the book club and everywhere else, and feel free to share with an expert like Tommy, just because we're not alone. And I think that's the biggest thing. We may often, I mean, most times we are the only persons in our buildings in our positions. And some of us have assistants, but most of us, it's just us. And a lot of people that we work with don't know really the scope, the realm of what we do as a profession. They assume they don't know, and they don't know all the stresses and other things that can come about and how we take on them, because we've taken on these jobs and we've taken ownership of them, and we definitely prioritize and want to do things, but it can weigh on us. And some of you are new to the field, some are experienced, been around a long time like I have, but we deal with it in different ways. And I love when Tommy was talking about how when he was single and childless and how people, so I felt that, you know, and I know, and then transition when your personal life changes, your work life has to change as well. But you can't let anyone take advantage of your personal life because they figure you have nothing else to do but work. And people will lean on them, and we have to make sure, and I threw that one comment in there about making sure that those that work with you and for you um, take breaks and are intentional about, you know, those breaks. And we got to make sure that we don't take advantage of people who may be in a situation like Tommy mentioned, someone that is single and is there and very dependable. And I know, you know, I have been guilty of that at times. I, you know, I have an intern that I hate to say it, has no outside life. And, you know, and he's got work to do. He's not the best that I have to assist, but he's very dependable. And, you know, I'm going to make him better at what he does. I'm going to help him to get better at what he does. But I also have to be aware of the fact that I need him to be able to break as well. And it's easy to always find those people that are always dependable, because that's what we want. We look for people because we feel we are dependable people, and we want like-minded people who will be there for you in your time of need. But we all need to make sure we take care of self first. And Tommy, I definitely appreciate what you have brought to our organization today. And once again, I'd be remiss if I didn't personally thank Anthony for you know, getting Tommy here with us. And hopefully you all take away, and the recording will be available on our website. I know some individuals had to leave earlier, so they may have missed the end, but please share with Tommy while you're on, and I'm going to, you know, leave the floor open for anyone else to jump in.
Hey, Tommy, I have a question for you. So one of the things that I've been dealing with a lot is like this guilt of saying no, you know, and like when you say no, you feel like it just has this trickle down effect. And when you're the leader of that department, and you just feel like you have to say no for your own personal mental health and wellness, but there's so much going on that it's like, it still like sits with you for so long.
And it does, because part of the reason why it sits with you for so long is because you are working on creating a new behavior. So you're retraining your mind and your emotions and your thought process. And so really, the more you do it, the easier it's going to become. And then at times there's certain tricks that you have to remind yourself of to kind of quiet that voice of, you know, there's a lot to be done. You know, and you're kind of going back and forth on that. But for me, because I experienced that too, was when I went away on a vacation, first one in like 3.5, 4 years. And I was like, okay, once I get here, I'm turning off the phone. Everyone knows I'm on vacation. We'll see what happens. I've done everything that I need to do in terms of putting a plan together, having people in place to delegate and execute the plan. And I stepped back. And to kind of help me, I made sure I left my work phone in the car while I was gone on vacation. And when I got back, turned on the phone, and I was like, did nobody call? I have no text. And I enjoyed my time while I was away too, because I didn't have my phone to think about. And the more you do that, you're going to create a new behavior, a new pattern of behavior. And so you will become more comfortable with that. But also, the thing that you need to remind yourself of too is you are the leader of your department. And by you saying no, you are going to empower others around them to say no, in terms of making sure that they're protecting their self-care and their mental wellness as well. So that's part of how you have to those are, I'd say, your ammunition to quiet those voices as you're developing this new behavior of self-care and mental wellness. Because like I said, for us, we have such a passion for helping others that a lot of times, like I said, that's going to start trickling down on our sliding scale of priorities is our self-care, because we're like, well, I really need a break, but I can get this done because it's busy. I need to get this done. I'm the leader. This is what I need to do. But effective leaders also understand that if I have selected the right people, they're going to be able to get the job done well because I've trained them well, because we put a plan together, we've executed. And then if there is an emergency, they know they can get a hold of me or who the next person is to get a hold and make sure that the fire gets put out if there happens to be one while you're stepping away, taking care of yourself.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Hello to all. And I'll say this webinar, this topic is exactly what I need right now. Thank you so much for you know, now where I am. I mean, I'm tired.
I saw that coming.
Yeah,
I was
Anthony,
gonna tell
you're
Ardina
muted.
she was gonna have to put that in the chat or get Gulliver Prep to step up their game on their Wi-Fi. Here she is.
Ardina got the auto tune working.
Ardina, you gotta get Gulliver Prep to step up their game on Wi-Fi, girlfriend.
I think she's in her car.
Hey,
Maybe yeah, she probably is driving. We can't hear you.
hello.
We can barely hear you.
Oh. Okay, still. Oh, yeah.
Hey guys, I have something that's been heavy on my heart
Yeah,
here for the
Kevin, go
last
ahead.
few weeks.
Mhm.
If I could share, and for Tommy and for the rest of the group too, you guys probably have a lot of feedback that could help me with this. But I think for the first time since I've been an athletic administrator, I have a team that I may not be able to field. It's a boys lacrosse team, and we have a few passionate kids who who want to play. But we recently went through a redistricting. Rezoning, and we lost a lot of students. And so we probably won't have enough students to try out for boys lacrosse. And it weighs heavy on me because I'm very concerned about the kids who I know, value that sport. It means a lot to them. So I'm just dealing with that.
Well, this is kind of where I talked about the CDC, your choices, decisions, and the outcomes, right? Or consequences. And so part of it is, for me, as you're explaining this, I definitely understand because I'm kind of putting myself in their situations. And even with COVID, just seeing how, it ended a lot of seasons for a lot of people abruptly. And so part of it is, this is an opportunity that you can really make it a teachable moment for them. Express to them all the things that you are trying to do to ensure the best chance possible for them to have a season, but also let them know what your limitations are, and that, this is all that I can do. And this is all the things that I'm working on doing to try to put us in the best position possible for you guys to have a season. But this is also some of the obstacles and challenges that I'm working to try to overcome that just may not be able to overcome. And that's outside of my control even. And also look for, what are some other alternatives. Reach out to other folks in your district or your surrounding areas and see, tap them and use their institutional knowledge of, hey, have you ever come across a situation like this before? And what did you do when you came across this situation? So definitely use your resources, even with the great people that you have on this call right now. But even if there's some resources there in the area for you, is kind of where I would start, and some of the things that I would do to suggest to you in terms of how to deal with this current situation, because that is tough. And you do see that a lot, especially with the high school sports. They're really that fluctuation.
I mean, a lot of these students have a mindset of community service. So one of the options we were thinking about is, offering them an opportunity to help with the girls lacrosse team. They've got some newer kids. At least that way, as managers or helpers for another team, they would at least get a senior recognition night, something like that. Reaching out to my feeder middle school, who, a lot of those kids can't afford the sport of lacrosse. And so, if I can, get some of my kids here to, maybe expose those young folks to lacrosse. By the time they get to high school, we'll have a budget, and they will have been exposed to the sport, to, just to build it. But, all of that stuff, great ideas, is just, it still bothers me. So I really appreciate today's workshop, because, that mental health piece is huge as we, take on everybody else's problems on our shoulders,
Right. Let me ask you this really quick. So is it more of a budget issue, or is it just from the rezoning that you lost the players and don't have enough players to meet the minimum size team?
It's number two.
Okay.
Yeah, after rezoning. And prior to COVID, we had a large number of upperclassmen, and we were unsuccessful in building a JV at that point.
Okay.
Then we lost that spring season, as everybody here did. And then last year during COVID, we basically either graduated or several kids zoned out of our school. And it's just been a challenge.
Okay. Well, I definitely like your ideal about the community service piece and having them help the women's lacrosse and even coach. And one of the things that, if that's the route you decide to go, that I would highlight with these young guys is for them to take a moment and think about how they're currently feeling, and would they want anyone else coming up to feel that way? And what are some of the things that they can do to, once again, it really takes them from being victim, but also from being a passive ally to an active ally. And so that way, like you said, if they want to get out and help some of the kids that are in junior high or your feeder schools to get them exposed to lacrosse, that's a great way to do it. Or, for some of them, if they help out with the girls team, that may ignite a passion for them where they may want to later on down the road coach. And so it's a lot of different ways that you can talk to them about the different opportunities, even though, yes, we're disappointed, that this looks like this is going to be the outcome where we won't be able to field a team. But these are the opportunities that we have moving forward to make the best of this very difficult situation.
And then Kevin, if we have a coaching shortage in California, and so we can't even find coaches, and it sounds like Illinois and Tina's having the same question. So, Virginia folks, if y'all want to move to California, Illinois, we need some coaches out here. I'm not trying to take yours from you, but if y'all want to move out here, I know it's a little more expensive maybe, but we need that. But Kevin and Tina, I just want to say to you the same thing, that, when I have the struggle of obviously finding a coach, and I'm feeling like a failure, and I'm doing something that I am totally adamantly against, but I just have to have a team. So I'm letting a dad who's a former college player kind of lead the program, and I'm going to hold his hand all the way through it. But it's just so that I could have that opportunity. So I don't know, if there are rules, we're a private school, so maybe the rules, we can bend the rules a little bit about having parents involved. I really choose not to do this, but in this situation I had to. But we're also a school that doesn't have access to a track, but I got 70 kids on a track team and we don't have a track. So there's always those challenges where, and Missy will tell you on here that, I've driven all around San Diego County begging to get on people's tracks. We kind of barnstorm people's tracks from time to time and just go out there for practice. So all of those things do not define who you are as an administrator. everybody knows that you care about your program and about those kids and that it's not your fault. So I'm just reminding you of that, that you have already demonstrated your love and your passion for your program. There's just some things that are out of our control and that we cannot, it cannot happen, but we'll continue to fight to do it. And the more you take care of yourself, the more time you will have to spend on trying to solve that issue. But if it starts to weigh heavy on you, now you kind of taking yourself out of, out of that time that you could be using, maybe trying to figure out something, but you got to take care of yourself first. So I hope that's something, just so you know, it's happening across the country. If it's not that, it's a shortage of referees.
Yeah.
It's just the product of COVID and people wanting to be, or having the expectation of being treated better.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the encouragement. Thank you very much.
Folks, we done went overtime, which normally we don't do, but again, we sometimes got to put our mental health first. So it's fine to do that. And so pleased that you all took this time and to be able to join us today. We are going to try to be back in a couple of weeks. We're working on something for a second webinar. We'll get that out to you as soon as possible, to try to, really utilize Black History Month and everything else. And we got a lot of things planned coming up. Obviously, it's the 50th anniversary of Title IX this year. We're working with the global community of women to do some joint projects and to do some things. So we are back in full bore trying to get, the information you need. We have some great opportunities out there for those who might be looking